Is this just one of yours? Yeah, okay. Sorry? Oh, no worries, nurse. Hey. The conference will begin in exactly 3 minutes. And for spelling, I have Inspector Peter Moreira, that's Moreira of Homicide. I also have Detective Mary Vruna, that's Vruna, also from Homicide. This is the cold case homicide number 16 for 1980 of Larry Roberts, Roberts, who was 29 at the time when he was killed. Caroline, I don't see the red light on. Can you give... Yeah. Two minutes. Camera's okay? Yeah. Okay, go. Yeah, the camera. Conference will begin in exactly 1 minute. It's all good? All good? Okay.
Well, now, you have to say him.
30 seconds. Oh, there you go. Ten seconds. Good morning, and thank you very much for coming to Toronto Police Headquarters. Today, I'd like to introduce to you Inspector Peter Moreira of Homicide and also Detective Mary Vruna, also of Homicide. They will be speaking to us in regards to homicide number 16 for 1980, the homicide of Larry Roberts.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming. I'm Inspector Peter Moreira of the Toronto Police Homicide Unit, and we're here today to discuss a case from our cold case section. Cold case investigations can be very complex due to the passage of time. Cases become cold because evidence could not be linked to the person or persons responsible. In these instances, we look towards the public to establish that link. For example, we may have DNA or fingerprints in a case, but the offender does not appear in any of our databases. Once we learn the name of the offender or offenders, we're able to work then to establish and link them to the evidence within the case. With the advancements in technologies in the areas of DNA and fingerprinting, we can sometimes see what investigators could not see at the time of the initial investigation. We will often look to the media to reinvigorate investigations that have gone cold. And that's the reason we're here today. Over time, and sometimes over a great deal of time, people's attitudes change, relationships change, and people may have a nagging whisper in their ears about doing the right things, even after all these years. We are seeking that small piece of evidence that can change a case forever and forever change the lives of the victims' families. These families still contact us decades later. The families will not forget, and we will never stop looking. We will continue to work the cases as long as it is necessary, but what we need is for people who have that evidence to come forward. The people with the information, the knowledge, and quite frankly, the courage to come forward and assist. I would like now to introduce Detective Mary Vruna from our cold case section to outline the 35-year-old murder from 1980 of Mr. Larry Roberts.
Good morning. The Toronto Police Service Cold Case Section would like to announce that the Toronto Police Service is offering a reward of $50,000. This reward offer is replacing the original reward offer of $25,000 from 1980. The Toronto Police Service is offering a $50,000 reward to any person who has information leading to the arrest and conviction of individuals responsible for the following murder. The details are as follows in relation to Homicide 16 for 1980, the murder of Larry Roberts. On Thursday, April 24th, 1980, at approximately 1:23 p.m., an employee of Brinks Canada Limited, Larry Roberts, arrived at the Agincourt Mall located at 3850 Shepherd Avenue East in Toronto for the purpose of delivering a substantial amount of money to the Toronto Dominion Bank. Larry Roberts was with two additional employees, Theodore Montgomery and Ernie Morris. The bank was located at the southeast entrance to the plaza immediately north of the Loblaw store. Roberts and Montgomery left the truck, which was parked approximately 96 feet south of the entrance to the plaza. Morris remained in the truck. They loaded several money bags onto a handcart and proceeded to the entrance into the plaza. Upon entering the southeast entrance into the plaza, they were ambushed by three male persons, two armed with a handgun and one armed with an automatic type rifle. Roberts was shot in the chest at close range by one of the suspects. Montgomery was shot by one of the other suspects. The two shooters then grabbed the bags of money while being covered by the third suspect. Two of the suspects ran north a short distance in the plaza and into the mall entrance of the Scarborough Branch Office Public Library. The third suspect followed and fired shots into the ceiling. All three suspects ran through the library and exited the rear door and were seen getting into a light green, full-size, late model American car approximately 40 feet northwest of the rear entrance of the library. Montgomery, bleeding, entered the Toronto Dominion Bank, leaving a trail of blood on the floor and was assisted by citizens. Roberts laid unconscious. Roberts and Montgomery were transported to the hospital where Roberts died of the gunshot wound. He was 29 years of age at that time. Montgomery suffered a gunshot injury but survived. He was treated and eventually recovered. What I can tell you to date is that at the time of this murder, we believe that the suspects have ties in the Quebec, Saskatchewan, and an Ontario area. The two vehicles, a 1975 blue Grand Torino and a 1977 green Oldsmobile Delta, were also stolen from the Montreal area that were used during this murder. These vehicles had license plates that were stolen from the Ottawa area. These vehicles were both recovered at the time of the original investigation. We also believe that there may have been a female involved in this incident. In 1980, an investigation was commenced by the Metropolitan Toronto Police Homicide Squad and Hold-Up Squad. The investigation generated several reports, witness statements, and tips that came in relating to the persons of interest that might have been responsible for this murder. Although the suspects were believed to be wearing disguises, Witnesses at that time were able to provide detailed descriptions, and a composite of one of the suspects was created at that time. At that time, it did not identify any suspects. We now have taken that composite and had a Toronto Police Service artist enhance the image to reflect what he may look like today, 35 years later. Given that there is 35 years that have passed, investigators believe that with the passage of time, someone may feel remorse and may want to come forward with information that they have been keeping to themselves for the past 35 years. We believe that the persons responsible that have done this type of robbery and murder before and since. We are looking at past individuals who have been previously arrested for similar offenses across Canada and possibly in the U.S. We have also been working with our partners at the Centre of Forensic Sciences with the review of forensic evidence gathered from the scene and have developed DNA profiles, which, however, not yielded any actionable results as of yet. The Toronto Police Cold Case Section is seeking the assistance of any persons who may have information in relation to this murder. Subject to any questions, this concludes the information that I'm providing.
Any questions? Do you have a description of the female that you believe might be involved?
Unfortunately, we do not. However, we do have female profile DNA.
And there's a composite, this is of the one individual. Do you have a composite sketch of the second individual that may be involved?
Unfortunately, at the time, there was only one composite developed, and mainly of one of the main subjects. It's unclear if he was, in fact, the individual that shot Larry Roberts, but he was one of the three individuals described by witnesses. And they had developed this composite at that time, but it was not, it did not yield any results.
Have you guys been communicating with the Roberts family over the last while? What have they been saying?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Has there been any communication with the Roberts family in the last while?
Yes. We have been communicating with Sharon Roberts. We have been in contact with her, and she is aware of the release today. She still resides with her son, who at that time was a young infant when her husband was murdered. And again, as you can imagine, it's a bit of a bittersweet time for her. It's stirred up some new emotions. She's pleased to hear that her husband's murder is still being investigated. You know, although her husband has been lost, he's not been forgotten.
What makes you think there's a connection to those other provinces, in the suspect?
Well, as I mentioned, the vehicles that were located in the initial investigation were stolen from the Quebec area, and the license plates were stolen from the Ontario area, and as well, going through archive files in the investigation, at that time, they had been looking at leads that led out to out west.
The female, how do you believe she was involved?
We are unclear, unfortunately, at this time, although Center of Forensic Sciences, we had the evidence re-examined, and we have yielded some female profile.
So what do you use to help determine what your person of interest looks like?
Well, at that time, they had a Toronto Police Service artist compile a composite, and so we had a copy of that, and we took that to our Toronto Police artist today, and we asked her to enhance it 35 years, and that's what she did. That's what she came up with.
Have you received any recent tips or anything that would prompt you to want to age the old composite?
What we have been doing is, as part of the Toronto Police Cold Case Section initiative, we've been targeting investigations that have yielded the possibility of DNA evidence that the Centre of Forensic Science has now the ability to re-examine with new technology, and this just happens to be one of them.
So was DNA left from these suspects at the scene on the truck or on the cart, I guess, that is?
Well, I can't give you specific details where the DNA was located. However, what I can tell you, evidence was gathered at that time, and through the resubmission of evidence to the Center of Forensic Sciences, we were able to develop a DNA profile.
So do you believe that this was an isolated incident, or this was these two suspects, possibly the third, their MO, and there may be more armored car incidents linked to these individuals?
I can't give you exact linkages specifically. However, bank robberies is an old age crime. It's not something that's just been on the forefront recently. I believe that the suspects in this investigation were sophisticated and knew what they were doing. I believe that it had to be planned out, given the fact that they were there at the time of the delivery. So I believe that they may have done some research as to when the Brinks armored car would be doing deliveries to that specific bank.
Were the Brinks cars armed at that time in 1980, and was there an exchange of gunfire at all?
There wasn't an exchange of gunfire, and I would be guessing if they were armed, but I believe they weren't. I believe that came following shortly thereafter.
Sorry, yeah, just wanted to ask, a lot of these cases go and then they just get left behind. Why is it important for you guys to keep pushing forward to try to solve these cases?
Well, as I said, there isn't a statute of limitations on the offense of murder, for one thing. And, families may have lost their loved ones, but, they haven't been forgotten. So it's important not only to the families, but it's important to the role of the Toronto Police Service and the Homicide Squad that we continue to investigate these crimes and, send a clear message to any suspects out there that, they may not be able to get away with it, no matter how old the murder is.
Are the two other employees still alive?
Unfortunately, they are now deceased.
Okay. If you could, obviously with every cold case, there are certain things that have stumped investigators, hence the cases that remain unsolved. If you could name a couple of things that have been most frustrating when it comes to this case over the last 35 years, what do you think they'd be?
In terms of...
Not being able to find suspects or going cold.
Well, the biggest challenge with cold cases, obviously, is that the information is dated. And, the challenge that I would face in reinvestigating or reviewing a case of this nature is locating and interpreting information that was received from back then. Like many things, we do things a lot differently, and what we may do now wouldn't have been necessarily done back then. And unfortunately, we can't answer those questions as to why they weren't done back then, because we're not the original investigators, obviously.
How likely is it that 35 years later there will be a break in a case of this kind, a cold case like this?
Well, I'd like to be optimistic and hope that there is potential that there will be one. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes today's conference. These composites and the posters, along with the previous news release from 1980, will be available on our website.